Hello, good morning. You are one of my customers. I'm probably the only one person who's going to stand in front of you today and say quite proudly, poo is what we do, but it is, and we're very passionate about it. But we provide water and wastewater services to 7 million customers who are in the Northwest. And what I'd say is that's a service that people pretty much take for granted until something happens, because actually it is an essential service. It's something that we all need 24 hours a day, and we are the only FTSE 100 business that's actually based in the Northwest, and we're really quite proud of that and proud of that heritage. We do a huge amount in terms of infrastructure, so a £5 billion programme over the next 4 years alone to build lots of pipes. And I describe the business as sort of falling into two halves really, pipes and people, yeah? And for all the pipes that we have in the world, and for all of the IT and all of the technology and all the things that goes into delivering a safe and wholesome water supply and taking it away and treating it, the delivery all depends on people. So I just want to talk to you a little bit about me. So I'd spent my early career in customer services. We had a new chief exec and a new HR director who came to one of my sites. It was a site that I had in the north of England, 1,000 employees, and I said, great that you're here. If I were you, these were all the things I'd change about HR. And they said, have you ever thought about going into HR? And I said, absolutely not. I'm an ops person. What would I want to do in HR? By the end of that week, I'd been persuaded to move into HR. And the agreement was I was going to go for 12 months. I stayed 8 years. I'm now a fellow of the CIPD and actually feel very, very proud of the fact that I consider myself to be a HR person, previously the HR director, and a customer person. And that's because it all comes down to people. And what really surprised me when I turned up in HR was actually how much or how little we knew about our employees. So I know everything about my customers. I know when you go to the toilet, literally, yeah? I know what you watch on the telly, because I know when you finish watching that on the telly, I can see the demand go up for water. I know where you shop. I know how you use your... I know everything about you. When I arrived in the HR department with my fellow HR colleagues, I said, what do we know about our employees? And they said, well, we've got 6,500 of them. They're all quite an aged population. And I was like, I said, is that it? Is that all the information? And what really surprised me was we had lots of really good-willed HR people that didn't really understand people. So I said, right, okay, let's think about this thing called engagement then. And if you think about this connection between employee engagement and customer service and why it's so important, I said, what does our latest employee engagement survey say? Oh, we haven't had a really good response. They don't like filling it in. I said, oh, right, okay. Have we asked why? And actually, we've got some really great reward schemes and reward propositions, and they're not taking those up. Have we asked why? Yes, they just don't want to engage with it. I said, okay. So I took the new HR team on a minibus to a wastewater treatment plant at 6 o'clock in the morning. Because actually, that's where my people are. And said to the team in the mess room, previous lads that I've managed, a spade is a spade, literally, and said, what do you think about our new services in terms of being able to buy holidays or healthcare? And they went, don't know what you're talking about. And the HR team said, but we've told them. And I said, how have we told them? We emailed them. Okay, you don't work in a sewer all day, literally, because you have a high level of literacy. And when you've finished in the sewer all day, you don't come up out of the sewer covered in poo and think, yippee, I'll now clean off and go and read that fabulous email that HR have just sent to me. So our basic problem was a bit like customer services. You can have all the best propositions in the world, but if they're not landing with your audience, you're not making an impact. So I got involved with David McLeod and Nita and Engage for Success. And about About 6 years ago, the government at that point recognised that employee engagement was hugely important. And people often say to me, what is employee engagement? And there's more definitions than hot dinners. I always say to people, well, you know it when you see it. If you think about your team, and people say to me, we need a survey to work out employee engagement, and I say a survey is the last thing you really need. Because if you get your people in a team and you line up 1 to 10 of who is the most engaged and who is the most disengaged, you don't need a survey to tell you. You also don't need to have a survey to tell you what's the differential in their performance. And the UK government at the time identified that there was a difference between the levels of engagement of UK PLC as a whole and of the rest of the world. And if you were making an investment decision, would you really decide to open your new factory, your new product line here in the UK, where actually as a nation we're pretty disengaged? Would you choose to go somewhere else? Has anybody ever been fortunate enough to work in India? I've spent a long time working in India. I once got on a plane having convinced my board that I was going down to close a load of operations in India because they didn't work and they were dreadful, and they'd agreed to it, and I got on a plane and off I went, and I landed, and in 24 hours I thought, Christ, I've made the biggest mistake of my life. These are the most engaged, switched on people. The difference is I've not managed them properly. I came home, said I didn't shut it down, I've actually extended it for another 5 years, and it was an interesting conversation. But the difference was I could feel that level of engagement. And actually, if we think about engagement and why is it important? Well, actually, if you think about it, the whole pressures that we're under right now are significant. This whole short-termism and cost pressures, rapid changes in technology, increasingly diverse, whether that be customers or employees. We're not all the same. And actually people want to be empowered, and we want a meaning and a purpose for work. So back to that work doesn't have to be shit.com, because who wants to go to a place every day where we're not happy? And actually, if we think about it, why care about engagement? Why should our UK government care about the levels of engagement? Well, we know that engagement improves, productivity improves, we're able to compete and we're able to grow. So this just isn't a workplace issue or a personal issue, this is a UK PLC issue. And if we think about it, the whole command and control has gone. You know, I think about when I joined work over 20 years ago, it's now a very, very different type of environment. People want to be respected, valued, heard. I'm not going to do what you tell me to do. Actually, I want you to treat me as a human being. I think human resources is the worst name in the world for HR. Yeah, human resources, human remains. Yeah, I'm a human being. Don't call me a human resource. Stop counting, make me count. I love that. But actually, how are we treating people as individuals? And if we think about, for many and for the employee, we know that actually when people are disengaged, there's low well-being, there's higher sickness, there's higher attrition, low trust. I don't trust you. I don't trust you as a senior leader to take me in the right direction, to inspire me to transform this business. And actually, if we look about low confidence, low ownership, less innovation, less efficiency, we've all worked for somebody. And people, you know, that adage of people don't leave organisations, they leave line managers. Hands up if you've ever worked for a horrendous line manager. I hated him with a passion. Yeah? I am the most motivated, committed individual in the world. But if he'd have said we're doing this, I'd have done the opposite just to spite him. Yeah? Because he had no values at all. And I nearly left the business that I love as a result. So if you think about your own productivity and how it's impacted, it's huge. And actually, we've got a choice. We can either squeeze and control and monitor and think that's the answer as to how we get better productivity and better outcome, or we can inspire, we can respect, and we can trust. And that's a very different management style. And actually, we move from people are the problem to actually people are the solution. And actually, what we thought, or what we found when we started Engage for Success is, we went out across the country and we looked at lots and lots of organisations, and we said, what is it about those organisations where actually it doesn't matter what the sector, it doesn't matter what the product, it doesn't matter what the demographic of the customer or the employee base, what is it that those organisations do? And practically, what's the help therefore that we can give to everybody else? And there were 4 things, only 4 things, and they've not changed over the last 6 years. So, firstly, a clear strategic narrative, right? That's a bit like, I always use the word, it's not very ladylike, but HR bollocks that really, isn't it? It's a bit like, what do you mean by strategic narrative? Do I know where I'm going and where I fit in? Because if I don't, I can come here every day, but if I don't know where I'm going, what you want of me, or what the purpose is, I'm wasting my time. Because actually, I'm just here transacting. So, are your employees clear? And actually, is it clear to everybody? And have you translated it regardless of the role that people do? The second one, engaging line managers. So, it didn't matter where we went. The quality of the relationship with the line manager is the most important thing. I have a team in my business. They're called Vector Services. It won't mean anything to you, but I'll describe their job. Their job is, we have sewers, they're very large, they're bigger than me, some of our industrial sewers. Sometimes they get blocked. Now I'm not talking about something that you can give a bit of a rod to, right? They get blocked, big scale blockages. This team get fully tooled up with all their gas masks and equipment, and they enter those horrendous sewers, right? When we talk about terrible jobs, I don't think it gets any worse than that. Their employee engagement results, year on year, for the last 6 years, have been 100%. Yeah? Their difference, they work for the most inspiring, fantastic individual that would make me want to get into a sewer every day. Yeah? We had a very interesting moment where we decided to let a BBC TV crew accompany our workforce. This was a really interesting conversation with my board, where I said, I think we've got a great culture, we haven't anything to hide. The BBC want to come and do a documentary about a water company. Everybody else has said no, and I think we should do it. And they're going to follow our employees around for 6 months. What do you mean? Well, are we going to choose which employees? Not really. What editing rights do we have? Not a lot. You can imagine. So we had to have a few goes at this conversation. And it was an amazing programme. There was one moment where I thought, this is backfired and I'm about to get sacked, when they were with the Vector Services team and the BBC producer said to this guy, fully tooled up, what is it that makes you want to do this job every day? And he looked at him really straight into the camera and he said, well mate, it's quite simple really. He said, because as long as you've got a hole in your arse, I'll have a job. My chairman just sort of looked at me across the table and I went, true. So, the next one is about employee voice. Okay, how strong is your employee voice in your organisation? And by that, I don't mean you run a survey. If you're relying on a bloody survey to understand your employee voice, pack up, go home now. And I always talk about 3 really simple things. What are people seeing? What are they feeling? And what are they hearing? You don't need any survey to tell you that. And actually, how close is that? And who is the person holding up to the mirror to the board to say, actually, what they're hearing is you saying, money's tight, we've got no problems, and what they're seeing is the sales team have all rocked up in shiny new BMWs. Yeah? What are you seeing? What are you feeling? What are you hearing? But how strong are you hearing that employee voice? And the other one that actually is really, really important is integrity. Or I always talk about this as the words and the music. So you know what? It's really important around here that we do X. We've all got the values on the wall, like they make a difference. Yeah? And what's really important around here is customer service or teamwork. But you know what? When we've got a problem, I won't be here at the weekend or on Christmas Day, but I need you all to be. Because actually, people see through integrity. Integrity is like a window. And actually, if the words and the music don't match, you're wasting your time. So if you've got examples in your organisation where you say one thing and you do another, that's your biggest problem about engagement and, more importantly, disengagement. Because people will see it, they will be talking about it, and it will be magnified. And what we found when we looked is behaviours are explicit. People come into my office quite a lot and they go, what we need, Louise, is we need a new culture. I find this quite an entertaining conversation. So I go, hold on a minute, and I tend to get up for dramatic effect, go over to my cupboard, open the door and say, which one would you like? And they look at me and I go, what do you think a culture is? Like, it's not something we get out of a drawer or we buy off the shelf. It's what we do every day. It's what we say, it's what we do, and it's what we make come alive. But people talk about culture like it's this thing that you can mythically buy or you can mythically become. And for me, the correlation between employee engagement and customer service is huge. So you might say, why are you now a customer service director when you were a HR director in charge of change transformation? How do those two things come together? They are exactly the same. There is no difference. Yeah? Absolutely no difference. Because it's all about people service. Whether that be employee service or whether that be customer service. And they all rely on one big thing. So when I was at school, it might surprise you, I used to talk a lot. I had a history teacher and he used to say to me, Louise Kyle, that was my maiden name, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, use them in that proportion. I think that's a great saying. How much time do we spend listening? And actually in a recent survey, employees said the biggest thing that senior leaders could do that would make a difference was listen. That doesn't cost anything, but actually makes a massive step change. I love this picture because pictures speak louder than words. This is a real life picture off the internet. It's from a local authority. This went viral. This is, I cannot be asked to move the twig. You know, he could have, or she could have even kicked it out of the way. I can't be bothered, so I'll just go round it. So people often say to me, why should we focus on engagement, Louise? Or I'm too busy, like it's something you put in your diary at 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. The answer is, disengagement costs us every single day. And dealing with 7 million customers, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, the engagement of my people is the biggest differentiator on the can I be asked factor of anything I can possibly do. And if we think about the correlation, we've just done some research with the Institute of Customer Services, and there is a direct correlation. So actually, for every 1 point increase in employee engagement, you get a 0.4% increase in customer service. So if you're working with a finance director or anybody else who goes, why should I bother with this thing called employee? Isn't that pink and fluffy? Isn't it what you HR people do? Go and have a look on the Engage for Success website. There is some amazing stuff on there which will give you all the facts and all the figures that you need across UK PLC as to why employee engagement is important. And if you think about my story in the last 12 months, taking over a customer service operation, I sort of deal with about 85,000 customer interactions every single week. My employee engagement levels have gone up to 91% in the last year. My customer service is the most improved in the sector. We've reduced written complaints by 50%. I've done absolutely nothing to invest in that horror called technology. All I've done is invested in my people and empowered them to do some things that are different. So, if we think about the strategic narrative, one of the key things was making it clear to everybody in my business what was the role that they played in delivering great customer service. And actually, about this engaging managers, what was it about the person that they worked for? How did we have the management structure? One of the things that really arrived me when I first arrived was I did that hot, good old HR, got a textbook out, right, let's do a OD review, right, how many management layers? 7 management layers between me and a person on the telephone. There's not many layers between me and the Prime Minister. 7 people. It's like, what are you all doing? The answer was not a lot. Paper shuffling. Yeah? And when you stand up and you say, we're going to get rid of some management layers. I'm going to get some of the management layers because I want to get closer to what's going on in this business. And actually, I want to inspire you and I want to motivate you, and I can't do that if there's 7 people between me and you delivering my service. And in the first 3 months, I said, right, I'm going to take everybody offline and I'm going to have a conversation. I'm going to have a conversation about who I am, what can they expect, and where we're going on this business over the next 3 to 4 years, and what I need from you as an individual. Because I'm going to change your work patterns. I'm going to change job. I'm going to change everything that we've done around here. And in return, this is what you'll get back from me. I will develop you. I will support you. I will empower you. And I'll talk about empowerment in a minute. And so they come into my office and they went, we can't do that. I said, why can't we do that? We can't possibly take everybody offline for you to have these conversations. So what we thought is, we'll set up a manager's brief, and then the managers will brief the managers, that'll brief the managers, that'll brief the managers. And I went, no, just stop. Why don't I brief the employees and they can brief the managers? Oh, that was quite an interesting conversation. We can't possibly do that. I did 136 briefs in 3 months. Even I was fed up of talking. And the biggest difference was people said to me, you spoke to me. You treated me like an adult. You engaged me in the problems that we had. You made it really clear what you needed from me and what I could get in return. If you think about this thing called employee voice, I introduced something called Tell Me. You can tell me anything. You can tell me if you're fed up. You can tell me if I'm doing something that's stupid. We started a shift review because my business was a customer service business, but I shut at 5:30 and didn't open weekends. So I ran contact centres where 85,000 customers contacted me each week, but I opened when you went to work and I shut when you come in. And we hadn't realised that there was a little bit of a difference in expectation. So I said to everybody, I'm going to change your shift patterns. Okay, so the first contact centre we work with, there are 1,000 people. Are you ready for this? This is pretty good from an HR perspective. 196 different work patterns. 196 different work patterns. And then we wondered why we were inefficient. So we said, okay, I said, right, work patterns don't work for me. It's inefficient, I can't run a business like that, and I need these extended opening hours. That's my problem. You design the work patterns. I'm not going to design them, you design the work patterns. The people, my people, design the work patterns. I've got working grandparents' working patterns. I go out every Friday night and get absolutely trolleyed. So don't ask me to ever work a Friday night, but I'll do any other night that you possibly want me to work patterns. Yeah? I'm a heavily trade unionised business. I've got nearly 80% trade union representation. It went straight through. Why? Because the employees had designed the work patterns. And they weren't just new work patterns, they were extended opening hours. I introduced something called Tell Me. You can tell me anything you want to tell me any day. There is not a form. There is not a process. They wanted one of those as well. No, we don't need a form, we don't need a process, we don't need a mailbox. You can just tell me. So I have an email address of Tell Me. They come through every day, between 40 and 45 every single day. They are everything from, Louise, why does it say this on the bill because that telephone number isn't right? Or Louise, I've spoke to a customer today and actually I think it would be really better if this tariff was designed in this way. Or Louise, I'm completely hacked off because actually I've just been given my holiday allocation and I don't like it. Now you could say, as a customer service director, have you not got better things to do with your time? But the whole point is we've transformed the business in a much shorter period of time because that employee voice is direct. You get a response within 24 hours. That's a huge beast of a commitment. The train is great to London, that gives me time for Tell Me's, yeah? But the quality and the insight that you have from your people is far better than any consultant, any process review, any data analytics that you're ever going to invest in because they're speaking to your customers every single day. So what is your mechanism for hearing your employee voice and how complicated have you made it? Because if it's complicated, or actually I've tried to tell you once but nobody did anything, I ain't going to bother again. What we started to say to people was, right, okay, we're going to empower you to do the right thing. So we introduced something called Make a Friend. They said, why are you talking about Make a Friend? And I said, well, what I have noticed is you've got these horrendous call scripts, so we're going to throw them away. and you're obsessed with average handling time. We're going to get rid of that as well. And I'm basically going to say to people, you're all adults, and I want you to talk to customers like they're friends. And the first month I was there, I sat in the contact centre and I listened to quite a young guy on the telephone to a customer, and she rang up and the conversation went like this. I'm phoning you because my mother's terminally ill and she's had to move out of her house and she's only got 2 weeks to live. What do you think he said next? He said, have you got the account number? And when he finished the call and I'm like eating the inside of my face, I said to him, right, let's just, he did everything else beautifully. The average handling time would have been lovely. Can we just have a chat about that call? I said, you didn't acknowledge what the lady said to you. He looked at me. He said, oh, no, we don't want to do that. And I said, why wouldn't we want to do that? He said, well, you don't know where it might end. And he said, well, it can impact on average handling time. And I thought, oh. And I said, right, okay, if you're in the pub tonight and your mate comes in and he says, my mum's terminally ill. I said, what would you say? I said, what would you say? He said, I'd say, I'm really sorry, mate, to hear that. I said, well, that's all I want you to do. And I'm not going to put you on a training course for it. I'm just going to give you the permission to be yourself. So we painted every wall a horrendously bright colour. We put up pictures all over the place of real customers. And it says things like this. The customer will not remember what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel. Bring your personality to work because our customer would love to hear it. And what I said to them was, I just want you to be yourself. I want you to be self, I want you to be human, and I want you to treat each interaction like it's a friend. The step change that we've seen in performance is immense. Every day. So I'm averaging at the minute of about 100, between 140 and 160 thank yous or wow awards from customers who've spontaneously given me feedback about employees. Now that can be on the back of the fact that I've filled your home with sewage, so it doesn't go further away from a great experience than that. And what we said was, right, we're going to empower you, that if we've got it wrong, you're empowered to put it right. Whatever you need to do, just put it right. My finance director went, do we not need a process? Do we not need a process? The law starts spending money. And I went, right, stop. Right? I think probably cost me a couple of £100. That's a damn sight less than putting everybody through a training course. Let's trust people and empower people that they're all adults and they'll do the right things. So at Christmas, they designed a Christmas card to send to customers, because I speak to a lot of customers who are very lonely. Then in January, they popped up and they said, we've designed a card, it's called Just to Say. So if you speak to a customer on the phone and they say, it's my golden wedding, I've just lost a partner. Dear Margaret, it was lovely to talk to you today. I'm really sorry to hear about your loss. Or it was really lovely to talk to you today. Really hope you enjoy your celebration of your golden wedding. All the very best, Louise. And yesterday, this letter arrived on my desk, so I just thought I'd share it with you. Madam, I'll have to go a bit like this because it's not very clear to read. A fortnight ago, I tried to pay my water bill on your automated line, but I failed. I was transferred to a lady and the transaction soon went through. I must have explained that with my 80th birthday imminent, I am no longer with it. A few days later, a package came through the post. Anticipating it was a birthday gift, I kept it unopened. Imagine my delight to find a lovely box of biscuits and a simple note from Suzanne of United Utilities. It really made my day. Such thoughtfulness, such generosity. Could someone with seniority please pass on my sheer heartfelt gratitude and thanks to Suzanne? A human touch from a giant organisation. Thank you. That's the difference when you say to people, I'm not going to manage you on timescales. And when I went to find Suzanne yesterday, I said, I've just had this lovely letter, Suzanne. She went, oh, I can't. She said, I do remember him. And I said, you've made a huge difference to that gentleman. And do you know what she said? And this was the difference. She said, I can't tell you how much more I enjoy coming to work. It's lovely to be able to interact with people like they're a human being. And it's lovely to be given the freedom and the empowerment to make the decisions that I think are right. And if we think about how empowered are people in your business, because if they're not empowered, they won't be engaged. They'll walk on by when the twig is sticking out because they won't be asked to bend down and move it out of the way. So this employee engagement thing is not a HR agenda, it's a business agenda, because it's about productivity, it's about service, it's about profitability, it's about well-being, it's about health and safety. HR does not own engagement. You don't own it, nor should you. And if engagement is sat in your HR department, it's sat in the wrong place. You might be the advocates of it, you may help with a process, but you don't own engagement. Engagement is owned by every single line manager in the business. And if we think about the words and the music, how much effort do you put into putting up the mirror when the words and the music don't match? Because HR professionals, you've actually got to be brave. Because if you're not brave, you're wasting your time. Don't walk on by when you see there's a difference between something that's said and something that happens. Because actually people will never ever take you seriously again. So the first time I get a tell me and I say what you tell me is really important and I don't respond till 48 hours, can I be bothered again? No. So only make a commitment if you're going to follow it through. Don't say you're going to look at employee engagement once a year in an annual survey and then not do anything. And the biggest thing that can make a difference to the level of employee engagement is stop focusing on employee engagement target. Throw it away. Be brave. So we're not going to talk about employee engagement targets. We're going to focus on one thing, one measure that will make the biggest difference in your business, which is I have seen action as a result of my feedback. That's the only thing you need to focus on. And that's what you need to actually attach importance to. Promote your line managers, not on their engagement scores of their teams, but on have they actually done something about the feedback of their people to make this a happy and productive workplace to be. That's the most important thing, not the employee engagement score itself. So, I think some of the things you need to think about is how linked is your people strategy and your customer strategy? How much time do you spend? And I know there's customer and HR people in the room, but actually it's exactly the same thing. It's a people strategy. How much money do you invest in technology? So I sit on an investment board. Some people shuffled in on Monday. Please can we have £30 million to create this new system that's going to do everything, make your tea, sort out your husband, everything. And I'm going through all these papers in a really frustrated way. And I went, right, lovely, boxes, wires, technology, testing, all of that stuff. What about people? Oh, yes, yes, because they know I'm going to ask. Yes, yes, we've thought about that. Right, so how much money and effort have you got allocated to people? Project manager, £1.4 million. I went, sorry? Yes, £1.4 million. I went, £30 million transformation, 1.4 million on people. Yes, like you thought I was going to be impressed. How much time do we spend focusing on changing technology, changing processes, and not enough on investing in people to take us with us on that journey? And actually, who are the disengaged in your business? Who are your wonky line people? Because actually, that is actually subtracting from your business being successful. You know who they are, and you do not need an employee engagement survey, which should be anonymous anyway, to identify them. But if you're not dealing with them, they're in your business, actually multiplying like mushrooms in the dark. And if you're not dealing with them, you'll turn around and there'll be hundreds of them. And what's the balance on your bank of goodwill? Because engagement's about goodwill. And when you have a crisis, and we've had a lot, and you'll have them if you haven't had one already, you need people. You need people with the right momentum, the right energy. That's when engagement shows through. So what is your bank of goodwill that you've got in your employee base? And for me, if you want people to care about your business, to care about your customers, you've got to start first about caring with your people. That should be the first, the most important cornerstone of any strategy. Has to start with people, because if it doesn't, it won't be underpinned, it won't have any longevity, and it won't have any success. So thank you. Hopefully that's helped. I don't think you're going to have anybody else who stands in front of you and says poo is what we do. You'd be thankful I didn't bring you any poo pictures. We have lots of those as well. But I don't know if anybody's got any questions or anything before. I suppose my question really for all of you would be, if I sort of asked you now, actually, how strong is your employee voice? And actually what the levels of integrity were like in your business in terms of the words and the music. Is there a difference?
Discuss. Myself, just follow through with my actions. I think a lot of people are just kind of maybe afraid to speak the truth.
And we use it. 6 different offices, so you're probably only talking 10, 20, 30 people for each region. There's a lot of